Russia has over 1,200,000 prisoners serving time in its 804 prisons. 31 of Russia's prisons are for women and 61 are for juveniles under the age of 18. The Nairob Prison District has 12,000 male prisoners serving time in its 12 prisons. The town of Nairob was founded in the 17th century as a prison for the Russian Tsar's uncle. We will be visiting men's prison N240 in the Nairob Prison District. Prison N240 is considered to hold the most dangerous prisoners in Russia that were not sentenced to die for their crimes. The Russian military is in charge of guarding the exterior of all the country's prisons. The soldiers have permission to shoot to kill, to break up a fight in the prison yard, or prevent a prisoner from escaping. These soldiers were drafted at the age of 18 to serve a year and a half in the military. They receive free room and board and are paid $30 per month. The soldiers on the 4 watchtowers change positions every 2 hours and work a 24-hour shift every other day. The senior officer on duty always witnesses the changing of the guard and checks each tower's manual alarm system to make sure it is operational.
How is the service?
It's okay. We manage.
Are you always stationed on the watchtowers? Have you ever worked inside the prison?
No, only on the watchtowers.
For 15 months, you've been here on the watchtowers?
Yeah.
So how is the service? Is it difficult?
No.
Since you've been watching, did anybody try to escape?
No.
Have you ever had to shoot prisoners?
No.
If a prisoner in Russia receives the death penalty and loses the appeal process, he is shot. There is no last meal, no last requests, no final goodbye to family and friends. No witnesses are allowed other than a medical doctor who verifies the death. This special group of guards has been formed to track prisoners that have escaped.
Have you ever had to shoot to kill prisoners?
No, we haven't yet, but our group has only been on the job for 9 months.
So, God have mercy.
Yes, God have mercy. I shot at a prisoner once at another prison, but I missed.
So it's not like the American movies.
Of course not. They say it's a pleasure to watch people being shot in American movies, but life is different.
What's your salary?
Including my ration money, I get $110 per month.
And vacation?
We get 30 days vacation a year.
Do criminals try to take revenge on you?
I'm sure they would try if they had the chance.
Did you get any special training?
Yes, physical training, hand-to-hand combat, and mountain climbing.
Each prisoner here has committed 3 or more violent crimes or crimes that involve the death of an innocent victim. To be housed in this prison, their sentences are a minimum of 8 years for their current crimes, and most of these prisoners will be spending 20 years behind bars. For 8 years after their release date, N-240 former prisoners must disclose on job applications that they were in prison. If the former prisoner hasn't committed a new crime for 8 years, the court will eliminate his past criminal record. If a former prisoner is convicted of a new crime, the courts take his prior offenses into account when sentencing him. Once a prisoner is released from prison, he has the right to vote again. These prisoners are waiting to be escorted to the lumber mill. The inside of the prison is run by prison guards who report to the prison administration instead of the military. The inside prison guards do not carry guns in order to prevent the prisoners from taking the guns away. This guard has an identification card for every prisoner that is allowed to work at the lumber mill. If a card is left over after the prisoners return, he knows an escape has taken place. Prison gang members refuse to speak with our film crew concerning their role in prison life. Convict Obristov is 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighs 170 pounds. He is 45 years old.
I have many sentences. I got in prison in 1972 for a murder. Once in prison, I committed additional murders and attempted murders. All my additional crimes were done to maintain my self-respect or to prevent someone from taking advantage of me.
And since then, you've never been outside?
Not since 1972.
How much longer?
2 years and 4 months are left.
Did you ever escape?
Never.
Why?
I never even tried. I never even thought about it. Every prisoner that I know who has tried to escape ended back here. It's no use.
What makes prisoners try to escape?
When they have no way out, when a man is lost at cards or his other debts, then they can stab him or rape him. They can do anything. You know what is in store for a debtor on the outside. They would kill him or throw a grenade through his window. In here, they put a brick into a mitten and hit him. That's the deal.
This prisoner's dormitory lacks indoor plumbing. 2 prisoners are carrying out last night's wastes.
Sometimes it comes to extremes, to murder.
Can you recount any such incident?
It happened in Valai not long ago. The prisoners revolted. There were strict conditions and hard labor. I've been in that prison before. Then a group of prisoners from another prison were transferred there. Those guys were real criminals. They decided to take over from the prisoners that had been running things. They started to fight, and 2 men were killed.
Are there national conflicts?
Not here, but prisoners everywhere hate Chechnyas. If a Chechnya happens to become in charge in a Russian prison, the other prisoners try to crush him.
Relatives are now allowed to take the bodies of deceased prisoners home, but it's not usually done. The Russian government now permits a cross with a name on the grave instead of a peg with a number. An average of 200 death sentences were given in Russia from 1985 through 1993. After an appeal process that can take from 6 months to 2.5 years, approximately 160 death sentences were upheld annually during those years, according to the Commission for Appeals. When communism fell in Russia, those prisoners awaiting execution received a death sentence pardon, since it could not be determined which prisoners had been framed by the former government. Russia would like to join the European Economic Union. However, one of the conditions for membership is the elimination of the death penalty. The Russian government seems to be headed in that direction. Men over 65 or under 18 and all women can no longer be put to death for their crimes. By 1995, Russia had reduced its executions to 90. The country's new criminal code that went into effect on January 1st, 1997, reduces the number of crimes leading to the death penalty from 9 to 3. The President of Russia must now personally approve an inmate's death sentence. Over 10% of Russia's prisoners are serving time for murder. Russia has the highest murder rate in the world, with over 32,000 homicides committed annually. The death sentence still exists for premeditated murder that includes mental or physical abuse of the victim prior to the murder, although the punishment is usually a prison sentence of 8 to 15 years. Well-behaved prisoners can have their immediate family stay with them in a visiting room for 3 days twice a year.
This is my 5th visit.
Are you his mother?
Yes, I am.
How long has he been in prison?
2 years,
How many years are left on your sentence?
7.5 years,
In which year will you be released?
in 2001.
Maybe I won't be alive when he is released, but if I am, he will come back and live with me.
Is it difficult to get visitation rights to visit your son?
Not since we are a democracy. Before we didn't have these visits.
Before, there were no such visits?
Not like this.
How many visits per year are allowed?
2,
How many days?
3 days.
I visited him 5 times for 3 days.
Does anyone visit you besides your mother?
Nobody.
So no one else is left outside?
No other relatives.
It's very difficult to come here because my pension is small and the travel is expensive.
There are no jobs here, so I have to live at my mother's expense at the moment.
Is there any opportunity to work in the prison?
Maybe, but I've been in this prison for 2 years and never worked, so I don't know.
So you've been in the prison for 2 years, but you've never had a job?
Never.
Prisoners are returning from the lumber mill. A prisoner that is sick does not have to work. Because of the shortage of prison guards, females are guarding male prisoners for the first time. Sometimes released prisoners have returned to the prison's gates and asked to be taken back. The prison has become their only home. The average Russian prisoner has only an 8th grade education, so without a profession and lacking family and friends, there is more fear than love waiting for them in the community when they are released. At the time of their crimes, 48% of the prisoners were unemployed. Russian prison N240 doesn't offer vocational training other than the lumber mill. The prisoners returning to the prison are always frisked, and even their boots are checked. But while our camera crew is at the prisoners were never asked to remove their hats for inspection. A Russian prisoner's sentence is usually increased less than 2 years for an escape attempt.
The administration won't allow me to work because they don't believe my word. How can I prove that I'm not going to escape? No one will trust me because I escaped once from prison. I escaped from guards with rapid-fire guns.
Introduce yourself.
I'm a convict named Korovkin. I was sentenced for murder and later for escaping.
Anything else?
For murder in prison, I was transferred to this strict prison. I was sentenced to a total of 18 and a half years.
How many years have you already spent?
10.
So, 8 years are left?
Yes, 8 and a half.
What year will you be released?
2003.
What makes you and your friends escape?
This existence makes us do so. We spend so many years in prison. We see nothing of normal life. They advise us to read books to calm down, but books aren't real life. I have relatives, but they are so far away, 1,200 miles away. And I'm here. I don't see them. I miss my mother. My second brother and my grandmother have died before I had a chance to see them. Can you realize what it means to waste 18 years of your life?
How did you escape?
In a loaded truck.
Did you go to work?
No, we didn't. We went from work in a truck with logs and we hid among the logs. We got as far as Nairobi before we were caught.
Prisoner escapes from the lumber mill are mainly successful because it is guarded by soldiers who have been drafted into military service. Serving their military duty at a Russian prison because of the shortage of prison guards means these young soldiers were not considered to be of a high quality by the military. Very few of them become a professional guard after their mandatory military service is completed. Should a prisoner be a behavior problem in prison, he may be placed on probation upon his release. He would then have 15 days to report to the police station in the town where he was living when he committed the crime. Every Saturday for a year, the ex-prisoner must go to the police station and register with the policeman that has been assigned to him. During his probation, the ex-prisoner is not allowed to leave Russia and must apply for permission to relocate within Russia. Should he violate his probation, he can be sentenced for up to 1 year in jail. Valassi Dakov is 65 years old. He was an outside guard here for 25 years, then retired from the military and has served as an inside guard now for 20 years. Having retired from the military, he has the right to wear a military uniform.
Why do prisoners try to escape? Do they really hope to gain their freedom?
These are prisoners with a hard way of life. They plan their escape for months. Either the guards do not search well, or the soldiers let them approach too close. Then the prisoners examine the whole territory of the lumber mill and fence all around. Of their two choices, to sit the whole term in prison, or to spend 1 or maybe 2 years outside and then be sent back here, they choose the second.
Have you ever had to shoot?
At prisoners?
Yes.
Several times, though I didn't kill, only wounded. In the old days, some guards used to shoot to kill, but you have to leave a body at the place of the incident. And there is an inquiry into the death, and you could go to prison yourself for wrongdoing. So, I had to shoot several times, but only shot to wound.
Under Russia's new criminal code, the minimum sentence received for premeditated murder without torture has been increased from 3 years to 5 years. Organized crime-related activities are no longer punishable by death. Sentences for organized criminal activity will now range from 3 to 15 years. Additional crimes and punishments are as follows: aggravated assault, 5 to 12 years. Misappropriation of state property in large amounts, 8 years. Armed robbery, 7 to 8 years. Rape, 7 years. Although separate statistics are not kept by gender, it is known that non-armed burglary and theft are the main reasons women are behind bars in Russia. Over 25% of all Russia's prisoners are serving an average of 5 years for non-armed burglary and theft. Prisoners can receive time off their sentences for good behavior. We are watching a kitchen inmate being escorted to the solitary confinement section of prison N240 to serve the prisoners their one hot meal a day. All Russian prisons have solitary confinement cells that serve as additional penalties for prisoners who misbehave while serving their sentences. The minimum amount of time in solitary confinement for disciplinary purposes is 10 days, and the maximum is 60 days in a row and 6 months in any 1 year. These prisoners are not allowed to leave the cell for exercise, and all visits and mail are prohibited. Solitary confinement prisoners are allowed to shower every 10 days. Sometimes prisoners deliberately violate the prison rules to seek refuge from punishment by their fellow prisoners. Two prisoners are forced to share a solitary confinement cell because of overcrowding. In his 45 years at the prison, Valasy Dakov has had many opportunities to be promoted to the prison's administration. With only a 4th grade education, however, he was unable to pass the written exams. He could have retired after 25 years of service, but his pension of $69 per month is not enough for his family to live on.
While you are on duty all day, what do you usually eat?
I bring everything with me. Here is my bag.
What do you have in there?
I have butter, bread, dessert, canned meat that I have already eaten, and apples.
Is that enough for all day?
Quite enough. Besides, I have tea. Here it is.
Tea is essential.
Right.
And how long is your guard shift?
The day shift is 10 hours. The night shift is 14 or 15 hours.
And how many days do you rest after the shift?
24 hours.
So you work 24 hours and then rest 48 hours.
No, well, tonight I'm off work, and tomorrow night I will start working.
So how many days off do you have?
I have no days off, just rest after a shift.
How many prisoners and how many guards are there in this barrack?
I'm a single guard in one barrack.
And how many prisoners?
Altogether in the prison, there are 600 prisoners.
That means one guard for 80 prisoners. Is that the right ratio of guards to prisoners?
Approximately.
Is that the right ratio?
We can't get enough men to make full shifts.
Why can't you get more guards hired?
We hired some men, but after 2 months of probation, half of them had already gone. It's a hard job.
What is your salary for this hard job?
Recently, I make $95 per month, plus the ration money. We have regulations that whoever wants to get food instead of ration money can get it.
Capitolina, how long have you been living in Nairobi?
I was born here.
What was your job?
I was a teacher in the elementary school
For how many years?
for 38 years.
And you don't work now?
Now I'm retired. I've lost some of my hearing and stopped working.
Do you worry when your husband goes to work?
Yes, I do.
Do you consider his job dangerous?
Very dangerous.
How has your husband's job influenced him?
Well, he is more restless and nervous now, and he always has a headache.
The state awarded Balassi many honors, but not what he really wanted, worry-free retirement years.
Why does your granddaughter stay with you?
Because our daughter works, she has no babysitter.
How do you manage to get rid of the stress of your work?
To get rid of stress, well, I change clothes, wash, walk a little in the open air, and soon the stress goes away.
Would vodka help?
I'm not enthusiastic about drinking any.
But it does help, doesn't it?
Sure.
Do you believe in God?
No.
Do you believe in anything?
I don't even believe in the future of tomorrow.
Why not?
It's the way my life is now. The good days have passed for me, especially at work.
Prisoners working in other heavy manual labor jobs have been replaced by ordinary citizens because of Russia's high unemployment rate. In the first 6 months of 1996, 130,000 business crimes were reported in Russia. As a result, more than 9,000 public officials and 550 policemen were accused of taking bribes. While the new criminal code has raised the maximum jail time for violent crime from 20 to 30 years, it has greatly reduced the punishment for taking bribes.
Tell me, is this hard work?
Well, of course it's hard. We work with logs. After all, it's different from cooking noodles.
How many hours a day do you work?
We work a full 8-hour day.
What's your wage?
Now we have a 40% increase in wages plus a bonus.
Now we'll get $30 a month.
Is that good money or not for working here?
Nobody ever received that much money before.
Is it good to have a job?
Actually, the warden tells us it's prestige.
And what do you think?
We think the same. Look, there are 700 prisoners and only 200 have a job, and the rest are sitting idle. Before, there were 3 shifts, and everyone had some money. With our wages, we have to pay our debts to society and our meals since they are not feeding us for free anymore if we have a job. Before the state maintained every prisoner, we need things, socks, pants. They don't give them out anymore. We need razor blades and shaving cream, as well as soap for washing, and all that stuff is expensive.
You can't save money for starting over when you're released. All your relations outside fall apart because you don't have any money.
Prisoners must pay any judgments against them, including alimony and compensation to their victims. For dinner tonight, the prisoners are having a soup of cabbage that has been flavored with meat bones for their first course. Their second course is oatmeal. A working prisoner is charged $15 a month for food. Working prisoners can get a second helping if they are hungry and wish to pay extra, but there is not enough additional food for the prisoners without jobs to have seconds. Non-working prisoners are fed by the state for free. Since the kitchen is always warm and its workers get extra food, the kitchen is a favorite place to work. The state's maintenance costs per prisoner are approximately $1,500 per year. Prisoners don't pay taxes themselves, but the prison as a production unit pays high taxes to the state. The state taxes have made the less productive swing and graveyard shifts at the prison lumber mill unprofitable, so 400 prisoners' jobs have been eliminated. The prisoner's store is open 3 days a week from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The woman in the shop works for the government agency that provides prison services. She is paid $69 per month. When she is not working at the shop, she has other jobs at the prison. The prisoners with extra money can buy personal items. One of the prisoners is buying sweets, and the other is buying a bowl to make a strong tea. The guards have the dogs. The prisoners have the cats. The prisoners feed the cats with leftover food from their meals. Cats are not allowed in prisoners' cells, but the cats acted like cats do everywhere, and the prisoners clearly relate to their attitude. While serving an 8-year sentence for gang rape, this prisoner met his wife by answering a marriage ad in the newspapers.
How did you get acquainted?
Through letter writing. After a while, we got married.
How did the correspondence get started?
Very easily. I got her address and started to write. Then I proposed and she agreed. We filed an application to marry and got registered.
Where did you celebrate your wedding?
We had 3 days in the visiting room, and that's all.
Are there many opportunities for prisoners to strike up acquaintances and get married?
Yes, there are. Many guys write to women who place ads in the papers and get acquainted with them.
Do prisoners place ads in papers to meet women?
No, I haven't heard of it.
What do you do when you have spare time?
We watch TV or listen to music.
What other amusement do you have?
We can play chess or card games.
Sounds like a rest home. I can hardly believe you. It's too good.
It's too good. You walked over to the lumber yard and saw everything for yourself. I don't know what I'm allowed to tell you. After all, this is a prison. For example, I can't tell that I drink alcohol in prison. However, I wouldn't refuse if there was any.
The typical cell contains 16 prisoners. Dolls are given to prisoners by their children during their visits. The jars by the prisoners' beds are filled with water and a type of fungus that gives the water a lemonade flavor.
Why are prisoners being raped in prison?
For many reasons, for acting tough, for card-playing debts, not paid in due time, for stealing.
What kind of men are raped in prisons? What class do they represent?
They are the scum of the earth. They belong beside the toilet.
Does it happen against their will?
Initially, yes. Then they know their place and accept it. They have no other way out.
Who rapes them?
The gang leaders' men.
But they would get an additional sentence.
Yes, they do it knowing that.
Aren't they afraid of the death penalty?
No, in that moment they fear nothing. They serve the gang leader and cannot be around the gang leader if they do not follow orders.
Prisoners are allowed to tattoo themselves in prison. The tattoo on the prisoner's hand says, "If you want grief, love me." A woman is serving as the gatekeeper. The pictures on the wall belong to some of the prisoners who have tried to escape from prison N240.
Does your husband worry because of your work?
No, I'm single.
Do you have any children?
Yes,
What about them?
my son is 15.
Is he afraid?
He grew up in this area, so I don't think so.
Are you afraid yourself? Is your job dangerous?
Of course I am. After all, they're murderers.
Have you faced real danger yet?
Not yet. Up until now, it's been okay. God willing, everything will be all right.
God willing. Have you worked here for long?
A year and a half.
Are you planning to stay?
It depends on the circumstances. I signed a contract for 3 years. Then we'll see.
Before hiring the special forces 9 months ago, the prisons in the Nairob district relied entirely on Anatoly Murgiev to catch escaped prisoners. Anatoly has been a prison guard assigned to the village of Kurja for 10 years. Kurja is located 65 miles from prison N240. Anatoly is responsible for tracking escaped prisoners in a geographic area the size of Belgium. While he waits for news of a prison escape, he is harvesting silo with his best friend and oldest daughter. Anatoly is 38 years old, his height is 5 feet 8 inches, and he weighs 154 pounds.
Первый раз я зашел в зону, они свободно все эти прапора ходят, и офицеры. А я зашел, у меня так как ноги на
When I first came to the prison, my legs were shaking. I thought a prisoner would try to kill me when my back was turned. I overcame my fears after a while. I would enter the cell alone. However, the second guard would stand in the doorway. I've gotten used to it.
Why did you decide to come to this border post?
All the time, you're working outdoors in the forest. I'm the kind of man that likes that. I love nature in the forest. I knew I would have to walk a lot, and I enjoy walking. I especially like skiing. I decided I'd rather track escaped prisoners than work inside the prison.
But this work is more dangerous.
Not really. It depends.
Where is there more risk?
I think there was more potential danger at the prison.
Ну, здесь зависит все-таки от обстановки.
А тебя как-то вот к разыскной работе готовили, то есть какие-то курсы, чему-то учили, там, я не знаю.
Did you get any special training for this job?
No, I trained myself.
It's a very old prison, isn't it?
Отец меня охранял здесь вот как
Yes,
ссыльные были.
there were always prisoners there. My father guarded them. So, apparently I followed in my father's footsteps.
As a prison guard, Anatoly gets 34 days vacation and 10 paid holidays per year. If he is sick, he can stay at home for 2 weeks and get full pay. After 2 weeks at home, Anatoly would be placed in a hospital if he is still sick. His pay would gradually go down if he remained in the hospital. Russia's prison guards are not unionized. In the rural areas of Russia, property was allowed to be privately owned even during communist times. Anatoly's house was built by his grandfather, and he lives in it today with his wife and 2 daughters.
The cow went in the opposite direction.
Although Anatoly is considered a well-off man here in Kurja, $100 a month is not much money for a family of 4 to live on. Kurja is no worker's paradise. The village lacks a hospital, doctors, secondary schools, and a library.
I get up at 4 in the morning to get everything done. I don't stop working until 11 in the evening.
I usually capture 8 or more men over a year's time.
Do you know how many prisoners you captured? More than 100?
Yes, I've captured more than 100.
When you go after prisoners, do you take food and water for them?
There's enough water in the forest, but I take food because we eat together.
What about being in the forest with a prisoner at night?
At night, he sits right beside me wearing handcuffs. I don't tie him to the tree at night. Once a man tried to escape at night, but I was awake, and he was wearing handcuffs, so he didn't go far.
An escaped prisoner must outrun the Special Forces team at prison N240 and then slip past Anatoly to reach freedom.
Nightingale, Nightingale. Kurja, do you read me? Kurja. We've missed one prisoner at the prison. He is young, born in 1974. No more information for the moment. What's his name? Tell me the name of the escaped prisoner. Just a moment. I'll ask a senior officer.
Here in the village, almost all the residents are either prisoners' children, former prisoners, or potential prisoners. Anatoly is the only one here representing the state. The state doesn't furnish Anatoly with a gun or even gas for his motorcycle. To track the prisoner, Anatoly takes only handcuffs, a nightstick, and tear gas. Anatoly has learned where the escaped prisoner was headed, and he will need to travel there by boat. The prison administration does not compensate Anatoly when he uses his own boat while tracking escaped prisoners, nor is he reimbursed for the gas his motor burns. To apprehend an escaped prisoner, Anatoly must first travel about 60 miles by motorboat, stopping in every village, visiting every suspicious house, and talking to anyone who will give him information. Since many of the people in the region sympathize with the escapee, information is hard to come by. The searching could last for several days.
Do you worry when Anatoly is gone?
Certainly I do.
Are you afraid to be alone?
No, I've become accustomed to the difficulties. I have to bring up the children and work now, so not that much would change for me.
Бывает, что и теряем его, ждем сутками. Когда все нормально, это хорошо, когда...
When he leaves for work, certainly the children and I worry very much about his safe return. Sometimes we don't hear from him for days. One time, we didn't hear from him for 4 days, and finally he came home wounded.
Did you ever try to convince him to change his job?
No, I like forceful men, so I chose one for myself.
Я выбирала себе военного.
Why did Boris tell me that Pashka had brought him here?
I don't know. I know that they took a stranger about a kilometer from the Svitol lake. Then he walked by himself. I don't know where to.
Anatoly is now 1 day's boat ride and another day's walk from where the prisoner was last seen.
Did you see any of the escaped prisoners your husband has captured over the years?
Конечно, у меня дома постоянно. Он же домой их приводит. Даже бывает, приходится кормить их.
Yes, of course. They always stay in our house the last night before they return to prison. Sometimes we have to feed them. We couldn't let them go hungry. I would give them dinner and make them tea. The first year we lived here, he caught about 10 prisoners in one summer, and they all slept here. There are no cells in the village, so we have to keep them here at the home.
Right inside the house?
No, outside in the woodshed. I lock the prisoner up in the woodshed with my husband. They would have to sleep sitting up because there isn't enough room for them to lie down. Then I spend the night in the house with the children.
Aren't you afraid to be in the house alone at night with a murderer just outside?
No, my husband is guarding him. Besides, I'm the one who fed him, so he would not hurt me.
Anatoly will reach his destination at dusk. The inlet where he will have dinner and spend the night is a welcome sight. Tomorrow he will walk a day in the forest to the prisoner's last known whereabouts. There is nowhere he would rather be. There is nothing he would rather do. One group of Russian prisoners have never been in jail. The leaders of the various Russian mafia that are responsible for the new criminal wave in Russia are all free. Anatoly can't worry if the Russian mafia is getting away with murder. He has his own murderer to worry about. The mosquitoes are so thick, it is almost impossible not to inhale one breathing through your mouth. The burrowing flies that screw counterclockwise into your flesh have reached record numbers in the forest this year. Anatoly will hardly notice these bloodsuckers. His attention is focused on finding the man who sucked an entire life away from an innocent human being.
My husband has been wounded twice, but I try not to think about it.
How was he wounded?
Once he was shot and once he was stabbed in the neck. They shot him through our window at home.
В Ухте долго лежал, я дважды приходилось мне с детьми выехать к нему. Да, месяц лежал в больнице, но у него это самое...
We got a helicopter in time. He was flown to the hospital in Ukhta. I visited him twice with the children. He spent 1 month in the hospital. The operation was very complicated. When I visited him for the first time with the children, we weren't allowed to see him because he was still in intensive care. I got in anyway, but he did not recognize me. He was shot in the liver. I brought him back here. For a year he convalesced. Then he began to mow the lawn and do work around the house. Then he started tracking escaped prisoners.
Anatoly doesn't know it yet, but the escaped prisoner was captured by the new Special Forces unit assigned to prison N240. Not only did Anatoly lose the escaped prisoner, he also lost his job. The Central Prison Administration for the Nairod district has decided to shut down the marginally profitable lumber mill and transfer the prisoners of N240 to other prisons. In the future, each prison will have a Special Forces team to track escaped prisoners. Anatoly will find out he is unemployed when he returns home, 5 days from today.
Thank you.